What fricked up thing did you do as a teen? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. More funny than fricked up. I live in the boonies. When I had my graduation party, we needed to put something out at the end of our driveway for people to find us. So, my best friend volunteered to flag people down. We proceeded to duct tape him to the telephone pole, write "party here" on it across his chest, stuck a lit joint in his mouth and left him there for an hour while people showed up. It worked marvelously and we cut him down when we heard police sirens. Best response so far. Played with Omegle. Was very fun. Then I got into a relationship with a 15-year-old mum. I didn't actually know how to handle relationships. I was 16, so even though she told me she loved me, I ended up ghosting her, because I was too stupid to know how to maturely end things. Wait, what do you mean? He means ghosting isn't a good way to break up and we're assholes. Oh, I misread it and I thought he dated his 15-year-old mum and I got confused. I argued with my dad constantly. I feel awful about it now. My dad had a temper, but mostly, I was just a little shit in my rebellious phase. Now that I'm an adult, Dad says I'm the child of his that he relates to the most, and that meant so much to me. I idolized my dad when I was a kid. I was a terrible asshole to him as a teenager, and now I'm back to my dad being my hero. I think most of us go through this cycle. I certainly did. I'm one step further though, because my dad is almost 70. I've started looking out for him now, rather than the other way round. That hit me too close from home. I know exactly what you mean, as it happened to me as well. I'm glad you and your dad reconnected. Preteen. Used to lie by the roadside like I had been hit by a car with my body folded awkwardly half in the road. Whenever someone would stop, I would get up suddenly and run away. That's honestly fricked, but also kinda funny. Like if I was driving as freak out and then just laugh it off at the hilarity of what happened. Pre-internet days and starved for entertainment. Me and my buddies befriended a gas station worker and would consistently steal red Sour Patches from the store. What terrible human beings we were. Christ, I misread that as beheaded at first. Stole money out of one of those donation cans at my job for kids with cancer. Only got caught because the woman who comes to collect it each month noticed it was pretty empty, so my bosses checked on it more and caught me once on the CCTV when I wasn't being sneaky enough. Totally fricked up on my part. I was fired. They didn't press charges and I did return the money plus more. In desperate days, I used to sleep in a Catholic church that was left unlocked at night between 16 and 18 years old. I was homeless. People would come in occasionally to pray and light votives at odd hours, and I'd see them from the balcony where I slept. Beneath the votive table was a built-in offering slot where people could deposit money for offerings. After people would make offerings, I'd go down, pull out the pins holding the offering box together, and steal the money. I feel pretty badly about that now. Yet here you are, alive and well, maybe thanks to those money. Understanding what you did was wrong is important. But I think Catholic belief is about saving the people in need and forgiving the sins. I'm not Catholic, so I might be understanding it wrong. So in a way, they meant to help you. Maybe pray once in a while for the religion if you are feeling guilty. Yeah, I agree. I would not mind one bit if a homeless person took my church contributions as long as it wasn't for the bad things. After all, that's why I contribute the money in the first place. If you guys know the ride The Waltzers, always there at UK fairs, there was a sign that said topless girls go free, so me, F, and few other friends went on for free for a laugh. We were teens, under 18, and the ride works by men spinning the seat things by hand. They took photos of us, whilst spinning, and nothing we could do about it. We just laughed at the time. It didn't feel freaking up then, but knowing some guy somewhere has photos of me topless just so I could save £3 for feels a bit fricked up now. Girls Gone Wild infomercials that would air late at night used to make me feel really sad even as a kid, because those DVDs were forever and their faces weren't blurred on the commercials. At least you're in the shadow trade. Yes, this is true. Also, advantage for my experiences, it probably won't have been see like Girls Gone Wild is as that's widely consumed. I think the thing that I find fricked up though is I was clearly underage for photos and we didn't know or agree to having photos taken at time. He just took advantage of fact we were literally pinned to seats and unable to move. A few things. One thing that came to mind was wielding a wooden sword out of the car window and screaming at a classmate. As a joke, of course. I didn't realize there was a cop approaching the school as we were pulling out of my high school. The cop forcibly removed me from the vehicle, threw me in a snowbank and arrested me in front of my high school. Luckily the charges were dropped and it's now a funny story. What charge is that? Assault. Reckless driving. Were you driving? I wasn't driving. I was in the rear passenger seat. I was arrested on charges of possession of a weapon for dangerous purposes. I got off due to the fact I was a teen with a clean slate and the cop was a total dong. I was arrested on charges of possession of a weapon for dangerous purposes, because you were wielding a wooden sword. When I was 12 I let a friend, wasn't a friend, douchebag kid who learned some really bad habits from his alcoholic, drug-addicted parents, convince me to break and enter into an abandoned house. About a month later I was giving a statement at a police station, because someone tried to light a fire in a closet there. Either the other kid did it, probably, or someone else did and we both almost took a rap for that. I suspect the friend, because he ended up in juvenile detention shortly after, and right before his parents got arrested for meth, and also right after their house mysteriously burned down. Shocker. If you keep your meth equipment in a fireproof safe, they discover that pretty fast after a fire, and investigators are pretty good at their job. Made dinner wrong one night and my mom accused me of sabotage. Apparently this was a hell of an offense. It is now a sibling inside joke. I took advantage of the fact that my mom was emotionally weak. I'd argue with her just to get her to cry and win the argument. I had no appreciation for how great my mom was and the sacrifices she made for me and my brother. Today, I'm not like that anymore, but I wish that I could go back and treat her the way she is supposed to be treated. Won't exchange her for the world. There was a guy that I freaking hated at work. Just a real dirtbag kind of guy. Well, work only has one restroom. I'm finishing my business and I hear a knock at the door. It's Dirtbag telling me to hurry up, because he has to take a freaking crap. I tell him I'll be out in a minute. So I grab the can of Lysol and pull out about 3 feet of toilet paper and spray it down a bit. Roll it all the way back. Unfortunately one of the other guys jumps the queue for the bathroom in front of Dirtbag. For the rest of the day that dude is scratching his ass and shifting uncomfortably. Cutting in line is also dirtbaggery. Justice will be served. Poured 2 40-pound bags of dry dog food in a mean neighbor's pool. It created a 4-inch layer of brown mush. In 8th grade my best friend asked me if I would go and ask the boy she liked if he liked her and if he would go out with her. I went over and asked him if he liked her. He said no. Then I asked if he liked me. He said yes. And then I asked him to be my boyfriend. He said yes. Then I went right back to my friend and told her that he didn't like her, but that he liked me and was now my boyfriend. I don't know why I did that. I was living in a group home for 6 months and there was one girl who was a total bitch. A lot of us were going through stuff and could have been just as hostile, but for the most part we all just defaulted to friendship except her. So as a courtesy to her to make her cognizant of what would happen in the real world if she kept treating people the way she treated people, I may or may not have put Naya in her conditioner. 17-year-old me learned fighting fire with fire is no bueno. Used a family member's electric toothbrush to fap. I was really messed up mentally after my best friend broke my heart and ghosted me. I gave up my virginity to a 42-year-old man when I was 17. I didn't think it was a big deal at the time, but that fricked me up even more. A month after that, I got into a relationship with a 23-year-old who was homeless and jobless. I would sneak him into my parents' house every night. He turned out to be emotionally and sexually abusive. I didn't get out of that relationship until I was in college, because I moved to a different city. Multiple suicide attempts, probably darker than others on here, but I'm glad I'm still standing. This is more of an almost did. When I was 16 or 17 and finally realizing I was gay, I started chatting with a lot of different men online, including some guy who was in his 20s. I was a virgin in pretty much all senses of the word, and also horny as hell, so we chatted. He didn't live very far, and he wanted to take my virginity. He was also not out. We lived in a fairly rural area, so I guess he was discreet. I was also not out. When the weekend came, I chickened out and went to a friend's for the weekend. My roommate called me a day or two into the weekend and said some man had been calling our house phone asking for me, but wouldn't say who he was. I didn't respond to any messages he sent me, and then eventually he sent me a pretty ominous threatening one, suggesting outing me or something along those lines. So I finally wrote him back saying I regretted our convo and that I didn't think we should talk. He explained that he only wanted a response as he didn't want me to out him either. Thankfully, that was the end of it, but it was a pretty risky thing I almost did. The guy freaked me out big time, and who knows if he was even who he said he was online. Fortunately, I ended up losing my virginity a couple years later, after high school, in a totally non-traumatizing fashion. No throwaway. When I was 17, I shot a man that was invading my grandparents' house. This was in a pretty wealthy neighborhood, and there had been a string of burglaries and break-ins in the area. I was staying the night at their house, because I had been helping my grandpa replace a windowsill and some stucco. I got woken up by a series of loud noises from a side door by one of the dining rooms. I woke my grandpa up, and he went to his closet and grabbed his .357 snub-nose revolver, and handed me his Llama 3.380. I had a fair amount of shooting experience, mostly with my shotgun and duck hunting with my dad, but knew my way around a handgun. I crept down the main staircase and looked into the kitchen. Sure enough, some dude was trying to kick down the door. It was just a pretty flimsy little side door, so I knew he would be able to break it if he kept kicking. I took up a stance hugging the wall to the kitchen, and waited until I heard the door break. About 3 kicks later, he broke the lock. He took about 2 steps into the kitchen before I rounded the corner and shot him 4 times. I just kept shooting until he went down. He died on the way to the hospital. I think about it pretty often, but I don't regret it, nor do I feel remorseful. I never told anyone from school, and none of them found out about it. He could have killed you and your grandpa. People who kick their way into someone else's home may not have just come to steal. You did nothing wrong. Is this a common occurrence in the US? People breaking into houses to kill people? Serious question. This never happens where I am from. In Britain they would just steal your TEA. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more r/AskReddit content. Be sure to check out our playlist, link in the description below.